It's season 3 and I'm back, baby. Did you miss me? Because I sure as hell missed you. Welcome back to STADIO Speaks. I'm your host, Kanyisa, and season 3 is about to be fire. Joining us today are two incredible STADIO guests. Head of School of Engineering and Architecture, Prof. Herman Vermaak, and Head of Academics for School of Engineering and Architecture, Marga. We'll be diving into the groundbreaking new qualifications, what makes the school stand out, and why students should consider pursuing their academic dreams here. Plus, we'll get a glimpse into their personal journeys and passions. So let's get started. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. You guys are the first episode of season 3. We're so excited to have you. So maybe you can start by introducing yourselves and telling us what your titles are at STADIO.
Hi, I am Herman Vermaak. I am currently the head of the School for Engineering and Architecture. And I'm quite a newcomer to STADIO. I've only started in the beginning of this year. And my main role within STADIO at the moment is to get the engineering qualifications going for STADIO. I do have approximately 29 years experience within higher education, and then also 12 years experience within the industry before I have started my career in academics.
Lovely.
Hi, and I'm Marga. I'm the academic manager for the School of Engineering and Architecture. And basically my role is just to make sure that everything runs smoothly on campus, looking after the program, looking after the lecturers, and looking after the students.
Perfect. And Marga, tell us how you got into architecture.
Well, it actually happened by accident many years ago. I've always been passionate about problem solving and figuring out how people live and use spaces. So that's why I essentially pursued architecture initially. And to this day, it's still something that drives me. It's very much user experience, whether it's a building, a room, a student's journey as a student at STADIO or as a student in our school.
And what do you mean by accident?
So I was very unsure as to what to study when I matriculated many years ago, and I went for guidance counselors, and twice they told me architecture, and I actually had no idea what it was. So I pursued architecture with actually no idea what it was about, and I've never looked back. It's such a fulfilling and rewarding and creative career, yeah.
That's so interesting. Architecture was like my second or third option. It's just that we didn't have EGD at school because I went to a girls' school. So
okay.
I had to like put it on pause for a bit.
No, it's actually so nice because when I studied architecture as well, we were 3 girls in the class of 60. So, but we're definitely seeing that kind of like stigma is changing now.
Yes, it
with
has.
more and more girls joining, even many without EGD. So
Nice.
there's still hope. There's still hope.
There's still hope. And then, Prof, tell us about your journey and how you got into engineering.
Yeah, mine started actually very early in my career. I was still in the primary school, and my father was quite a DIY man, helping him within the garage and all of that. But then one day I get my very first radio, and then
Nice.
it took
You bought it?
No.
Oh.
It was bought for me.
Okay.
But it took me 18 minutes to have it in a lot of parts.
Oh,
because
okay.
I wanted to see how does it work inside.
Yes.
And when I actually took it to my dad to show him all the different parts, I'm not sure if it was working afterwards again. Then he said to me, actually it took you 3 minutes longer than what I thought it will be.
Oh, wow.
And then I was start getting into thinking about what is happening inside. We only see things happening on the outside. We see a robot. At that time there was not real robotics as it is today, but the automation and the things that have started then already. Then I was always thinking what's happening inside. And then when I get to high school, then all things fall into place, and it was just for me, I want to do, and I'm actually electrical engineering, so it was within electronics and that sort of thing. So yes, and that was sort of always then from then onwards, this is what I'm doing, this is what is fascinating to me, and I sort of want to always know what's happening behind the scenes within the engineering. So
That's very cool. Okay, Marga, since you've launched the School of Architecture, how does it feel to actually see students in class?
It is like really so rewarding because for 2 years we conceptualized this program, prepared for this program, waited for this program to be accredited, and also for our SACAP validation, which is also quite a significant milestone for the school as well. So it's just lovely to now actually have students on site, get to engage with them, actually see how they're embracing the curriculum and working on the projects. It's really rewarding. It's probably one of the most rewarding experiences of being in academia, is seeing students starting to grasp very challenging concepts. And we just had our first graduation as well. So we had our first 15 students graduate, which was a very, very special moment for us.
And what do you hope the School of Architecture achieves?
Well, we hope to really create students that are excellent problem solvers. So in our field, the field of architecture is quite diverse. So after graduating, you can really go into numerous other directions. And our hope is really that through the School of Engineering and Architecture, we nurture these incredible critical thinkers, responsible citizens, and problem solvers that are ready for whatever challenges they might face in the future. Because it's very difficult to really prepare them for a future that we don't know yet. So that's really kind of like what we hope to do in the school and what we hope to nurture. But mostly I think really responsible citizens that go out, change the world, change the way people live, change challenges or challenge the norms to improve people's lives, whether it's through engineering or architecture or a simple drawing.
You speak a lot about problem solving. What does architecture actually entail? Because I think people have a lopsided thought about it, because I mean, when I think architecture, I think EGD and just structures and stuff. But what does it actually entail?
So I often get this question where parents are like, oh, but my child is not creative, or
it's not about drawing only.
They can't sketch, they're not artistic. And then I always say, well, being creative is about problem solving, and problem solving is looking at challenges in a different way and then seeing the opportunity that you might not have seen otherwise, which is why in our programs we nurture and we encourage that. So we have, for example, in our higher certificate program, we have a module called Creativity for Architectural Practice, where I teach them physically the skills and techniques that architects and designers use on a daily basis to look at challenges. How do you look at the user, or what is the process? How do you come up with ideas? So that's really what we try and approach. And in terms of problems, a problem could be a client being difficult, a problem could be software that's not working properly, a problem could be an issue on site with restrictions or something. So there's numerous problems, and just teaching them the skills to how to approach these problems slightly differently with an open mind is really what we try and hope to achieve.
Prof. Herman, so excited, the School of Engineering. Tell us about the School of Engineering and the qualifications that will be offered.
Yes, we are very much looking forward to this whole journey with the engineering qualifications. And what is particularly sort of new within STADIO is that it is the first time in many, many years that any institute could have started engineering programs from scratch.
Nice.
Normally what was happening is we will what we call recurriculate. You have got your old diploma and you will then work it with it, and then you have a new diploma. You will have a degree, recurriculate and get a new degree. We were able to start from scratch, meaning we could have taken all the experience that we have, 29 years national, international experience, put it on the table when we start with the development of the curriculum. We could have looked at what is today's trends and what they are saying the future will be. Look at the fourth industrial revolution, the fifth industrial revolution that is coming for us. And that is where we have started with the offering of the programs, to say we need to offer programs that is relevant with the technology that is outside today. So our first two programs will be two higher certificates. The first one will be in renewable engineering, and that will cover your solar and wind and a bit of the things like hydrokinetic biotechnology in a very smaller amount. And this is a qualification for the technicians that can go and work on your big solar farms, your sort of wind farms. But if we look at the current, what is happening today, there are so many homes, so many smaller places that also have got the PV system running. About 50% of the people in South Africa have at their homes these days.
Yeah.
So even these students will be able to work on them, be able to maintain that sort of things. So they will assist the normal electrical contractor that will not in the beginning know about solar power and how to do it. These students will have the knowledge to even assist them.
Nice.
So it's something that will grow further, and I'm very much this program will be very much linked to industry. Even with our new campus, where they are building it on top of the roof, there will be a big solar system.
Yes.
And that solar system will be linked directly to our laboratories. So our
Lovely.
students will work directly with a big system, real life. So we're not going to play like we normally say in engineering, Lego. We're not going to play Lego. The students is going to work on real life challenges, problems, and all of that. Then the second, it is something that we are looking very much forward to. The second higher certificate is within Mechatronic engineering. Now, Mechatronic engineering these days have come to the fore with all the IoT, Internet of Things, and your AI, and all of that sort of things, machine learning, where you are having, you want to sense a lot of things. You want to know what's happening. People are away from their homes, to take a simple example, and they want to know what's happening at their home. They want to control their home. On their way home, they want to put on their geysers. And the same is with industry. They want to know what's happening. We call it condition monitoring. Conditions that are happening, so that they can be preventative and say something is not going right, let's have a look at it. So this higher certificate is something that will cover all that fields. And the students finishing, our graduates, can work in a wide range of industries, from your automotive to your manufacturing, assembly industry, and then even in your normal industries to be able to have their security things going. But they also have a component of mechanical engineering.
Nice.
So they do have in their foundation electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and then the newer technologies that will be part of it.
So often students want to know about how their qualification will be able to work within industry. So maybe you can tell us about that. We'll start with you, Marga.
So I think a good way to kind of respond to that question would be to kind of just report back on our SACAP validation. So for anybody that is not aware, that in the field of architecture, if you want to practice, whether it's a draftsman, a technologist, or an architect, you need to be registered with SACAP. And that also means that the institution where you studied should have been accredited by SACAP, which is the South African Council for the Architectural Profession. They're the governing body for architecture. And I'm very excited to report that we received our unconditional validation earlier this year, which is quite a significant milestone, considering that we're only the second private institution to have achieved this milestone.
Interesting.
Which is phenomenal for our students, which means public institutions, if our students wanted to study further, public institutions will recognize their qualifications and they can register with SACAP in pursuit to become professionals, whether it's draftspersons, technologists, or architects.
Lovely. That's so exciting.
It is indeed.
And the School of Engineering, Prof?
Yes, within engineering in South Africa, we have got the Engineering Council of South Africa, and normally known as EXA, and they have exactly the same professional registration that the students can then register. And the path is that you have to have two components to be able to register. The first part is what they call academic component, and then the second part is your practical experience. So if you do have a qualification that are accredited by EXA, then you already have your academic component. You don't have to write any exams or anything with the registration body. So then, depending on what qualification you have, you can then register as a professional engineer, technologist, or technician. So the higher certificates will lead towards the technician. The degrees that we are working and that is currently in for accreditation with the CHE will enable them to register as technologist. And we don't know what the future holds for STADIO, but we can even offer courses that can lead to registration as an engineer.
Lovely.
Yes, but linked to this with the EXA is also part of the International Engineering Alliance, and that is 34 countries worldwide that are linked to accords, the Washington, Sydney and Dublin Accords. So if you are registered in South Africa, you can go with your registration to any of that 34 countries and work there as an engineer, technologist or technician without any hassles. So that opened up the world to the students actually.
Lovely. For those who are listening, we are internationally accredited, FYI. And then you touched on STADIO offering or working on degrees.
Yes.
Could we maybe get like a sneak peek into what the degrees might entail?
Yes, we're gonna look at first at three-year degrees. The first one that is already in is our electrical engineering. The second one that is on the way towards accreditation is our Mechatronic engineering. You can now see building up from the higher certificate, but also the higher certificate in Renewable lead into electrical enginering degree.
Oh, nice.
And then the third one is computer engineering. So that are the first three degrees that are, all of them are very much far in the process.
Yes.
And what we can also say, all these qualifications, even before you start offering, they are going through the engineering council, and they endorse them to say that they think this is a reliable and it's a qualification worth offering. So all that ones are through the endorsement already. And then there's maybe something in the future that we can later on start discussing. We have got plans for another degree, but we will give some details later about that.
Exciting. Something to look forward to.
Yes.
Lovely, lovely. Marga, do we have any exciting degrees coming at the School of Architecture?
So yes, I'm happy to report. We also have our B.Arch, which are in architecture. So it's a bachelor's in architecture, which is our first degree program also to follow up on our higher certificate. It is currently with SACAP for similar process to EXA, where they need to kind of scrutinize our curriculum and see whether it's relevant, industry relevant, whether they endorse it, and then once we've gone through that process, that will also go into our submission to CHE for approval.
Exciting. So that's also something to look forward to at the School of Architecture. So is this giving 2025 or maybe should we expect it 2026?
I think for now we want to establish the high certificate a little bit more, and then also get the high certificates, the engineering high certificates off the ground, also move to our new campus, get established, and then our degree program will be prioritized.
Okay, very exciting. Marga, so since the School of Architecture has been up and kicking for 2 years, we've had our first graduation. What's one of your most treasured moments with your students?
I think apart from seeing our first group graduate earlier this year, that was quite a memorable moment. But I also loved earlier this year we participated in a community engagement project where we worked with the Santa Claus Development Center. Our students got involved in creating a mural to kind of like spread a positive message in the community. And for so many students afterwards, even though it was just painting by numbers exercise, so many of them said afterwards it was just so rewarding to see how something so small could make or spread such a beautiful message or important message. So I really love when our students get to do that, go out to whether it's a site, meet with other stakeholders, meet with the community, and that will be one of my highlights from this year.
Okay, and what was one of your least exciting moments
one of the low points has been when in the beginning of the year, because we're still such a small school, you really invested into every single student, and it's part of our Stadio's mission as well, students at the center. So you know every student, you know every story. As academic manager, I need to look after them and their well-being and making sure that they succeed at the end of the year. And it's always sad when you lose one or two along the way, whether it's financial reasons or personal reasons. So it's always sad when we eventually get to that graduation podium and you miss a few faces.
Yes. So Prof. Herman, I heard you're an expert in sustainable energy. Tell me why solar energy companies are taking us for a ride.
I want to say thank you for that question. It is something that is happening these days very often. Quite often people come and ask me and say, can't I come and have a look at their home solar system because it's not as efficient, or it's not producing what they thought it's going to produce.
Yeah.
And then I initially always ask them, but how did the person that have come and give you the quote for a system, how did they decide how big must your system be?
Yes.
And then they said, no, they have walked through my house and look at the stove and look at the television and this and that, and then they have make a calculation. That is not the way it's supposed to be done.
Okay, how is it supposed to be done?
Yeah, the way it's supposed to be done, what we call, you need to create a load profile of your home. Meaning they have to come and put a meter, measure for at least a week. Normally it's actually better to go more than a week, but at least a week to see how are you using energy within your house. When are the peaks coming? When don't use energy? Then the first thing is to see how to get that peaks down without putting on the system first. Looking at saying, don't have your geyser and your washing machine at the same time, and simple things. Look at your lights. Do you have all energy efficient lighting? So that you first get to say, this is your load profile. And then we look at and say, if this is your load profile, let's add a 10 or a 15%, and that's a system that you need to have. And then also with the setup of your system, you can prioritize to say, do you want to use your system to have the least external power coming in from the ESCOM side, or how do you want to optimize it? Then if you bring in batteries, that's another one. Batteries are most often quite a very large amount of your cost for this installation. And currently battery technology is not that it's going to last for 10, 15 years like your solar panels. Currently the normal battery 5-year expectation, sometimes less. So your whole system need to be optimized for the way that your house is running. Because every house is running differently. If you're coming from home, then you want to do this and this, but somebody else can sort of say, no, I can do this in the morning. So all of this is part of what this people is supposed to sit with you to make sure that the money that you are putting out is worth it. Because at the end of the day, if we look, and we don't want to say too much, we are going for quite a number of weeks without load shedding.
Yes.
So now you must get money back from your system to pay back. So now it's not that I want 24 hours a day power. I have to make money out of it. So it must be optimized. And a simple thing that maybe not all the people know is how clean your panels on your roof is. Can make a big difference between 20 and 25% of how much power is generated. All depends on if you have birds around, it's even worse because birds are messing on your panels. So all that things is part of the whole thing that and that is what we're going to look forward to in the future within the School of Engineering and Architecture is to create awareness programs for the public, for household, to say, if you have a renewable system at home, if you have a PV system, here are some guidelines to ensure that you get the best out of it, and your system is sort of pay back itself within the least amount of time, because that is where we need to go to. And then if we start looking at your big solar plants, very much the same principles. If it's a PV plant, it must be kept clean. And you can think your sort of bigger plants are having between 300, 400,000 panels.
Jeez.
And I mean, we are a water scarce country, so you cannot just go with water and clean them every second week or that sort of thing. So there are research on at the moment looking at ways to clean panels, and to see what else can you do and that. Just to on the side note, in the beginning, all the companies that have designed the solar farms for South Africa were from South Africa.
Yeah.
So when they designed it, they were not aware of sandstorms, and particularly the Northern Cape, where quite a number of the solar farms is. So when they have put the farm together and start operating, it was sometimes 6 to 8% lower than what expected they have get from it because of the dirt on the panels and that sort of thing. So yes, South Africa are a special country. We've got a lot of solar resources, but one must just also remember solar panels are operational optimum at 25 degrees Celsius. So with our high temperature, we have measured within the research panels up to 70 degrees. And that means your efficiency have just gone down. There are also research that are currently ongoing, looking how to cool down panels and use that water that is then heated for something else again.
Very interesting, very interesting. Where did your journey for sustainable energy start?
Yeah, my whole journey have started, I think it was here in 2008 to 2009, when in South Africa they will start talking about solar farms and wind farms and renewable energy to be part of the power mix within South Africa. Then I will start thinking, being in an academic already then, start thinking, but they will need technicians, they will need people to maintain these farms, to be able to work on it, design these farms. And then I will start thinking, but then we need qualifications and we need research to ensure what do we want to teach a student. And that is where my whole journey has started here in 2009, 2010, where I first had to do a bit of research onto solar systems, because it was new in South Africa. I did visit Germany for a few years, like annually, to see, because they were the leading people at that stage. And then also look at their programs that they are offering within this area. And then I have started building up my own experience, own knowledge of this. And then eventually, when the first solar plants and the wind farms have started up in South Africa, then the qualifications were there to offer to them. And and your areas like Northern Cape have employed a lot of students that are within the renewable energy, because there are a lot of work there for them at the end of the day.
Interesting. So my next question was going to be, what's the importance of sustainable energy being blended into engineering?
Yeah. At the moment, there's always this discussion with Eskom. Eskom isn't always happy about the renewable, and the biggest thing is, and that is logic, is you have now sunshine, but they can be cloudy suddenly. The wind can stop. So for Eskom, this is a input to their system that is not controllable 100%. But if you look at the sort of cost of it, and if you look at about environmentally, this green energy need to be prioritized. It is something that we do have of, and it is something that a smaller business, a farm, can very much easily run off. I mean, especially if you are during the day operational. If you are operational while the sun is shining, you can get quite far. And then look at, if you are at night time, for your security, have some battery backup that you can go through the night. So it is very, very important environmentally. And I think that is something within engineering that have changed very much over the last few years. If I think back when I was studying, not so long ago, we have designed and we have developed engineering systems, and maybe not always think about environmentally so much as we are looking at today. And I think it's because we are sitting with climate changes and a lot of things happening in the world. So the engineer must be much more looking at sustainability, social impact that they are having the projects, and also ethics, because it is very important within engineering works to be ethical, because at the end of the day, that is what people expect from you as an engineer.
And Marga, what ethical expectations can we expect in the world of architecture?
I think it goes similar to the engineering, about thinking about others, whether it's the family that you're designing for, the site or the environment on which your building is placed, and also just how you conduct yourself with other stakeholders, because architecture is you're not by yourself. You are working constantly with engineers, with other consultants, so just being considerate of other people's needs and their roles that they play as well, and also the legacy of what you propose. If you are proposing an enormous skyscraper, for example, that is going to cast a shadow over a community, that is not really a good response. It's not you're not being a responsible designer. So ethic is very much embedded in our kind of approach as well, in terms of how you respond to what we call in architecture, to the context. So yeah, whether it's the environment or the community.
And then Marga, tell us a fun fact about you outside of work.
Oh, I drink a lot of coffee. A lot of coffee. I can drink coffee and even go to bed and still sleep fine. In fact, if I'm unable to sleep, I often drink coffee.
So caffeine doesn't affect you anymore?
Does not affect. I am immune to its powers.
Nice. And then Prof, what's a fun fact about you?
I am ambidextrous. So I'm normally writing with my left hand. I play squash and all sports with my right hand.
Your right hand.
And
Nice.
students will see when they come into my first classes. In class, I start with my left hand and I
you
continue
finish
with my right hand on the board. So yes, I am quite versatile with my two hands. That is for me quite nice. I'm quite a DIY man and working in the garage, so it is quite nice for me.
Nice. Okay, so another fun question. Maybe Prof, you can start. If you weren't in teaching in the education space with engineering, what would you be?
If I have to look at when I was in primary school, I would be a fireman. I was very much in my first 2-3 years in school. I want to be a fireman. But then, yes, a bit out of engineering, but maybe on the math side, accounting. If it was a second choice, that maybe
You would
it
have
would
gone
have been
accounting.
accounting.
Why fireman?
I don't know. Maybe I was enjoying making fires and
Making
thought
them and putting them out.
what can happen. So
Interesting. And Marga, what would you be?
I would have been a vet. I would have saved the world's animals.
Really?
And probably hoard a lot of rescues as well. So I would need a big farm also just to support my lifestyle. Yeah, that would have been me.
Why vet?
I just love animals. I've always loved them, and it's just the idea of helping a species that are unable to help themselves has always been something that has driven me.
Lovely. And what's your favorite animal?
A horse.
Really?
Total horse girl, yes.
I'm so scared of horses. I've ridden one, but I freaked out in the beginning because it started moving
Oh no.
on its own, and then I forgot all the instructions, and I was like, get me off the horse, get me off immediately. And then I was the first person to get on the horse.
Oh,
so
no.
everyone else had to like wait, and then I got taken off and put back on.
I'm traumatized by your experience potentially.
Apparently they feel like your anxiousness.
Yeah,
so we were both very anxious, and I was like, I'm done with you. Thank you very much.
We're just gonna stay anxious and
We're
move
going to
on.
stay anxious together.
No, they're lovely animals.
Then the guide had to walk with me halfway through the route.
Oh no.
It was a very like terrifying, horrible experience.
Okay.
And then when we like got into like the groove of things, it was very beautiful.
No, they are just such beautiful, gentle animals and so majestic.
Right?
Yes.
I'm still scared of them though. I like them from a distance.
Okay.
They're very pretty to look at.
Yeah.
Right?
I
okay. And then, since you guys are in the spaces of like engineering and architecture, you could have been very successful engineers and architects. So why did you get into the space of education?
I think for me, it's always been, I've always loved architecture, the field, especially while I was in practice, my kind of core responsibilities was dealing with the clients and also taking projects to site. So seeing a project develop from concept to execution to final design and handover. But I recognize, so there's kind of like two reasons. Firstly, also because my husband's also in the profession and it just became too much with two of us in the profession. Kind of like our circle, our world became very small. But secondly, also I realized that I could either change, like I by myself could only change one thing in the field, whereas if I'm educating other architectural professionals, my impact could be way more significant. So that was kind of like my second reason.
Lovely. And you, Prof?
Yes, mine have a bit of a different story. I was still in industry, and at one stage we had quite a big project going. So I was working for 14 weeks without one day off, minimum 12 hours a day. And my daughter was at that stage 2 years old. And then I was seeing she was looking strange at me, who is this uncle coming home sometimes? And then I realized, yes, I had to do something about that. And then the first position that I have had as an academic was advertised, and I've applied and I have get it. And I said to myself, let's look at 2 or 3 years and then I can go back to industry. But then when I start seeing the students coming in from school, and they not have an idea sort of where they're going, what is engineering and that, leaving us there with a diploma, with a degree, and what it meant for them, and what it meant for the people around them, and then also as it grows for the industry in South Africa. Then I start saying, but this is also something great, because I was working at the motor industry, and I've seen a motor car in the assembly line, and there's a car, and there's so much technology. And now I have a student, and in the beginning it was difficult. What did you do, the difference? But then you start realizing, when you see how they excel, do you see how they're working, and the way that they approach life after what you have put into them. Then I said to myself after 5 years, I can also stay here. And then luckily for me, within my research, I was linked to industry 100%. So I was for myself having the best of both worlds. I was still until today quite a lot involved with my research, with industry internationally, locally. But on the other hand, I've sort of get this, yes, you can call it a passion, to see young ladies and men coming in and not have an idea, and then when they leave there, they are doing this designs. They can talk about their design, they can motivate, they have critical thinking skills, they can solve problems, they can work in a team of multi-discipline, and we are planning even now for architect students and the engineering students working together in teams. All that skills, and even these days, and it will be maybe somewhat strange for some people, we are even look at soft skills for the engineering architecture students, because they do need, in our current living outside, our current real world, soft skills are also getting important. How to work in teams, how to present yourself, how to communicate even better, and make sure people understand you, and have a balance in your life. So yes, that was like, and I think after 5 to 7 years, I haven't even think and sort of going back to industry, having the best of both worlds.
Interesting. And how old is your daughter now?
My two daughters, one is 32 and the one is 27.
And which one was the 2-year-old daughter that kind of looked at you funny?
The older one.
The older one.
Yeah.
So the older one changed your life 30 years ago, basically.
I can tell you, when I moved to the university, the first weekend I was at home and I was busy there in the garden, and she walked up to me and she said, "Dad, don't you have a job anymore?" So it was for her, what are you doing?
What are you doing at home?
What are you doing at home?
You're not here on weekends.
I mean, it was for her the strangest thing to have me around. So yes, and today I am so glad I have made that move.
Yes.
At the end of the day, yes, you are getting much more. The sort of salaries is not comparable, but when you're satisfied in your work, it is not about the money at the end of the day.
I love that. Okay, Marga, maybe tell us, since you're a woman in the world of architecture, because it's such a male-dominated industry, how would you encourage young women to join architecture or the School of Architecture, and like how has it changed then, being male-dominated, to now?
So interestingly, I was having this conversation with Herman earlier, saying that when I started studying, we were about 60 in our first year class, of which there was maybe 3 females in the class. And we were sometimes combined with construction management and quantity surveying, which would make our cohort about 250, and maybe in total 5 females. But I'm definitely seeing that kind of status changing, because last year we had mostly females in our class, and this year it's about 50-50%. So the perceptions are changing. If you ask any student right now, who's your favorite architect, so many of them would say Zaha Hadid, who's she's unfortunately passed away, but she's one of the most iconic architects, and she's really just kind of opened everybody's eyes as to, like, this is not a male-dominated industry. Women can come, they can slay. So it's definitely, it's changing. The field is changing dramatically. So, and if you are afraid or you feel like maybe it's too technical or too difficult, I think that is what's the beauty of for example, a higher certificate program, which really gives you a beautiful introduction and foundation before committing to a 3-year degree or or 4th year, whatever the case may be. But the high certificate is really just, it touches on everything, introduces you to all of the different aspects of architecture. So it's a lovely way to see, like, am I committing to this full time?
And for students who are in high school who are thinking of going into architecture, what specific subjects do they need to take to be able to get into architecture? And then what requirements do our higher certificates have for them?
So typically for any architectural degree, you would need some form of maths, pure maths, and that's usually what hinders students from pursuing architecture, because they might not have known that they wanted to pursue architecture when they made their subject choices. And that's once again the beauty of the higher certificate. It provides you access by not demanding maths as a requirement. So we only have a 40% English requirement. That's the only requirement. And once we have our B-Arc program, you would be able to move from the higher certificate into the B-Arc with some maths bridging courses as well.
Nice.
So so the higher certificate opens those doors, but a typical architectural degree would have some sort of maths, and a lot of institutions also requires a physics component, but that depends on the institution, so I can't really be specific on that.
Okay, and Prof, maybe you can answer the same questions in terms of engineering and it being such a male-dominated industry.
Yes, it is. I think even more dominated what the architecture was in the beginning. Looking back, and I know the figures a bit, we were talking about 7-8% of in South Africa engineering students being female, where we are currently getting close to 34-35%, depending on the university institute that are having them. But I think the sort of modern engineering technology, it was always thinking, if you think about mechanical and civil engineering, it seems like big machinery and bridges and sort of big equipment. And today technology have changed. There's so much that can be done with with automated equipment and all of that. But it's not that, okay, now it's better for women. I think it's just a sort of mindset that have changed also, where the girls are looking at, even at school, and say, but I enjoy that. Yes, I'm AI. Yes, machine learning, sensors and that sort of thing. And they start thinking about it. Within engineering, we normally also assist. We normally have like programs where we even go to schools and let our girl students talk to the girls and say, listen, I am doing it, you can also. So that they don't look at me or the men and they see the ladies within engineering. Assisting, also bringing a bit of a different male, female don't always have the same look at engineering things, and we enjoy it quite a lot. I've already worked in a team with a project where it was 50-50, and it was very good to see how it was gelling, how the integration is sort of assisting to get a better system at the end of the day. If we look at our two engineering programs that we will start to offer in 2026 at the new campus, both of them, you have to have maths and science 50% pass rate in matric. And I want to say, it is always say that engineering are for the clever student and you must be so this and this.
A students.
Yeah. If you can pass matric and you can have above 50% for maths and science, you will be able to pass a higher certificate by taking responsibility and focus on your work. It is not that difficult. It is maybe a bit more work constantly that you need to do because the engineering programs have a big practical component. So every week, these students will work in the laboratories, do experiments, work with the equipment. That is actually bring the theory to the practical skill. They will have the theory and see how does a solar panel work, and we will explain in theory. But then it's just still theory. Where in the lab they will take a solar panel, put it there, see how they can charge their cell phones. Very simple starting up and then building with the practical component. So when they are leaving, they not only have just a theory, they have got some hand skills, practical component that somebody outside can take them further with that. And that is one of the sort of bigger differences with engineering and most of the other programs is a practical component that is so important. That also make it to be offering engineering a bit more expensive for the institute, but STADIO is not therefore going to now put up the fees for the engineering higher than the other ones. They will still look at it, what is the best option that they can offer to the student to be able to widen the access even to engineering programs as well.
Lovely. So now we're getting to our this or that segment. So I'm going to ask you a question and then you need to choose between answer A and B, but it's going to go very quickly. And since there's two of you guys, Prof, I'm going to start with you. Okay, so I'll ask you a question, and when I look at Marga, then the question is directed to you. But it's going to be like quick. Okay, are you ready?
Bring it.
Okay, Prof, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Books or movies?
Books.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
City skyline or country view?
Country view.
Math or science?
Maths.
Concrete jungle or natural landscape?
Natural landscape.
Modern architecture or classic architecture?
Modern architecture.
Beach vacation or mountain getaway?
Mountain getaway.
Podcasts or music?
Music.
And then last one, stay in or go out?
Stay in.
Lovely. Thank you so much for joining our podcast and entertaining us for the first episode of the year.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you guys. And it's a wrap, right? It's a wrap. And that